Welcome to another Everybody Hates Cleveland podcast. I'm your host, Jim Pete, joined as always by my EHC buddies, Steve Orbanik and Michael Hattery. We're back again very quickly from our last podcast, focusing on the Cavaliers, but this time we're going to shift our energy to not necessarily a team, but one Johnny Manziel. Before we get into Johnny football and his 100% jokeness, let's plug the site. Make sure you hit us up if you're catching this podcast and you haven't checked out our website. Hit us up at www.everybodyhatescleveland.com. Lots of really good Cleveland sports content and some other stuff there. We've got a lot of different types of content, mostly focusing on Cleveland sports, but as we grow over the next year, you're going to see a lot of content involving pop culture topics, pro wrestling, and of course, Indians, Cavs, Browns, hopefully ending in even some of the local colleges. Our goals are big, and we've got some really, really cool things to announce over the coming weeks as far as writers and as far as direction goes with our site. So make sure you check us out at www.everybodyhatescleveland.com and root around. Check out our About page, our social media page, and of course, if you need any other information, you can hit us up via our email addresses, which are also on the site. With that said, a real quick podcast here on Johnny Football. We didn't really spend a lot of time this season podcasting, so we really haven't talked a lot about Johnny Manziel since he got drafted. Yesterday, a ESPN report from McManaman and Jeremy Fowler talking about 20 Browns sources essentially slamming Johnny Manziel for his lack of readiness and preparedness, and some really good quotes from this piece, gentlemen. As I segue over to you guys, the 100% joke stands out, but what stood out to me was the quote where they showed up the week of all of the suspensions and fines. The Browns security went to check on Manziel, which to me was a concern in and of itself. If the Browns were that worried about Johnny Manziel that they sent security over to his house in what I would assume to check to see if he was alive, and found him, and I quote, drunk off his ass, unquote. As I throw the ball to you guys with Johnny Manziel, I mean, I don't even know where to go with this. I don't know if we're going to talk about if he's going to be a starter or if he should even be on the team or why they drafted him or if he's worth it. At this point, what are your thoughts on Johnny Manziel now? What are your thoughts on Johnny Manziel in 2015? Are we past the point of wondering whether or not to start him? Don't the Browns have to start him at this point? Or are we at the black and white stage where they either start him or dump him?
Oh, it's start him or dump him. Go ahead.
All right, done. Podcast over.
Well, it's Michael's basically right. Either you give the guy a look or you don't, and I think that's what they're trying to decide. I mean, you saw, DeFlippo come in and basically said, "I don't know if our quarterback's in the building," and I truthfully take them for that. Jimmy Haslam echoed the same thing. I don't think this organization yet knows what to do with him. I will tell you this: 20 Browns sources, including a Browns player who was the one who said it was an absolute joke. You don't think that that's not part of all the plan? So actually, the fact that story came out, that leads me to believe, and you guys can offer your opinion, that maybe the Browns are fixed into give this guy one more shot, and they want to light a fire under his ass. They want him to get ticked off, which anyone who, if you can't tell me if Manziel read that story yesterday, he was not furious, because this is his peers, his coaches, and let's be honest, I mean, it was bad. It was bad. This stuff, the fact that he totally was not prepared, that's, I think that maybe that's what this is heading up to, is they're trying to really motivate this guy to take this seriously. That said, I mean, I'm so, I guess, to the point where I was so excited when they drafted him, and it's startling to me. I mean, let's throw out some things, guys, here. Wasn't it they sold 8,000 season tickets within 3 hours after he was drafted? his jersey sales the first weekend he was drafted was more than the first weekend for Andrew Luck, Robert Griffin III, and Tim Tebow combined. Look at where he's fallen now.
Number one jersey in July in the NFL.
Yeah, it's and what I'm saying. I mean, look at how he's fallen. I mean, that's just startling. I mean, that this has nothing to do with the story, but it's just amazing to see that we're now talking about this story that came out yesterday, to where just about a year ago, this guy was one of the hottest commodities in all sports, and now it's can he even play? There's so many places for me to go with this, but I guess I'll say it like this. What concerns me so much is it's 6 quarters, and I know we can't make a firm, conclusion on a guy after 6 quarters. But in the final game of the season, when I saw Connor Shaw, you know what I saw? I saw an undrafted rookie. I saw a guy play like an undrafted rookie in the NFL. When I saw Johnny Manziel play, I saw a guy play like he didn't belong in the NFL. That's the big difference between him and Connor Shaw's performance. Bottom line is this. The NFL today is not even what the NFL was 10 years ago, because the legal contact changed the game forever to where you cannot touch a player 5 yards past the line of scrimmage, to the point where even guys like Brian Hoyer, guys who probably aren't really NFL-ready, NFL-level quarterbacks, can have success in limited spurts. And almost in any game, you can see him complete passes, even in Hoyer's bad game. The point is, from what I saw in Johnny Manziel in 6 quarters, was some of the worst quarterbacking I've seen in probably the last 5 years since this game changed, maybe ever. So, and I'm not. That sounds ridiculously overstated. I know how absurd that sounds, but I'm just telling it to you honest. And I want to love this guy more than anyone else.
The sad thing is that's not really hyperbole. I mean, you could make a case. You've made a case, a relatively legit case.
I mean, it was so. And that's what I'm saying. That was the difference. Was Connor Shaw, to me, looked like an undrafted rookie quarterback making his first start. Johnny Manziel looked like a guy who didn't belong in the NFL. I think it is black and white here to me. And I will say this, though. I want to be so wrong here. I want the guy to succeed like crazy, obviously. I just don't see it. I have no reason to tell me he's going to at this point. So, I apologize for the rant, guys, but I'm passionate about this. That's where I stand.
Yeah, I mean, it's impressive to suck more than Brian Hoyer did this year. And he did it. I mean, he just knocked my socks off. I mean, and he's, how you can be this unprofessional when the continual criticism and concern about you is that you're going to be unprofessional is exceedingly unprofessional. It's like guys who, they don't understand that they consistently are talked to about their greatest flaws, and they willingly refuse to edit them or change them in any way. And this is what's happened with Josh Gordon, which is a real shame. I think Manziel is actually fairly talented, and I don't think it has anything to do with his physical skills. I think he has incredible physical skills. He has a very strong arm. He's very athletic. He doesn't prepare. He doesn't care. Neither does Josh Gordon. And, I love Josh Gordon, and I think there's a legitimate chance that the best thing in 2015 is just to purge these guys. And I really don't want to be having, I don't want to say that, but, you have to do it at this point, I think. Because these two have just shown, and I know I'm just pulling Gordon in at this minute, but a repeated inability to take their job seriously. And you don't need to waste your time.
And to continue off that, Mike, what's interesting is, think about this story about Manziel being, as Jim termed it, drunk off his ass, which is exactly what the story said. Now, could any of us, say, could you imagine if someone had to send security to our homes from work because we weren't showing up, they couldn't reach us, and they found us, quote, drunk off our asses?
But, can you imagine the point in your professional career, Steve, where your place of employment would have to send security to your house for showing up late to a practice or a workout? To do that, the concern is far beyond just where are you. The concern is, seriously, what stage of the game are you at when you have to have security sent to your house?
Yeah, that's the thing is, you said what stage of your professional career. He hasn't started his career as a professional yet, and that's the biggest problem here. That is the underlying theme here, is he has no idea what it takes to be a professional in anything. And the truth of it is why I mentioned to you about why I think this story basically might have been planted by the Browns, why they wanted this done. And I think it's also, the Browns have been very clear to reiterate that he's getting nothing handed to him, which is interesting too. Basically with Manziel here, the best thing for him in his future, and we said this about Gordon before too, might be getting cut. Chris Carter has said that was the best thing that ever happened to him. Really, if Manziel's ever going to succeed at all, that might be what needs to happen. And I agree with you, Mike. I mean, I saw some of the skills too, and that's the thing that has to be emphasized here too. People are going to ridicule the Browns for this draft pick. This was not a Tim Tebow situation. Tim Tebow, one guy in the NFL thought he had a first-round grade, Josh McDaniels. Literally, one guy on one team. There were multiple people on multiple teams that thought Manziel could be a very effective NFL quarterback. At worst, and I would like to know your opinion on this, he might have been a mid-second rounder if the Browns don't get him there. Let's say if he kept going, someone was going to draft him. There was too much talent there, regardless of what Merrill Hodge, who's a blowhard, who doesn't ever deserve to have anything in front of him, because, let's face it, Merrill Hodge, not that effective of an NFL player himself either. That said, other people thought this guy could be talented, many outside Merrill Hodge, and, that's the thing. I think it does boil down to just no accountability whatsoever.
Yeah, I go back and forth with this, Steve, and talent-wise, I mean, I was right there with you all. He's an exciting pick, an exciting player. The report that was written yesterday discussed that very thing when they played these teams, and when they would play Alabama, when they would play Auburn. This is when Manziel would buck up and would do his homework and, of course, play his best football. I think his best intangible of all the things that you mentioned was his ability to step up in big games. You love the swag that he brings. Was he the right pick at that level? I don't think you can question necessarily the level in which he was picked. This is the bigger issue with Johnny Manziel and the Browns as a whole over the past 15 years is respectability of understanding what a floor is and what a ceiling is. And you look at some of these other organizations over the years that have been at the top level, aside from this New England conversation. I don't want to get into the New England conversation. Just talking football teams in general. The Browns have, I think the one thing we can say about Cleveland over the past 15 years is they've been an unstable organization. And I think when you look at the unstableness of this team, I don't know that Manziel is the right way to go. Now, was he the right or wrong pick? Hindsight's 20/20. I know that, when you talk about other people saying that he had number one potential, I agree with you 100%, Steve. I was excited that they took him. I know Mike was excited that they took him. I know you were excited that they took him. That being said, internally, that's a question mark to me. It's come out that Kyle Shanahan was looking at a couple of other guys, including Garoppolo from New England, perhaps in the second or third round. I don't know, and I think this is where the problem is for me. Not sure within that organization there were many people who thought Johnny Manziel was a number one pick. And that's wherein lies the problem with the Browns. They continually run into this problem, this unstable, dysfunctional problem where the organization can't get on the same page. Look at the Manziel situation. Some of the players on the team wanted him, many of the players didn't. Some of the coaches wanted him, some of the coaches didn't. If you look at any of the top organizations, we would never find that out. Why is it that the Browns can't figure this out? And it's not just the Browns, it's other teams, but the Browns have been horrifically bad at it over the years. And that's where my frustration isn't with the Manziel pick. My frustration is it resembles two other drafts doing the same dumb, stupid things without necessarily taking the players that the coaches wanted. They can't keep making these mistakes and still be a viable franchise.
Yeah. Yep.
So I guess
Okay.
this was a bigger question than Manziel, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I don't know
No,
where to go
it's
with this.
true.
It's so ungodly ridiculous. This guy is. I mean, they sense it. He's like he's like Jim Morrison. I mean, is this guy going to live to 27? Maybe that's the podcast we have.
And you know what's interesting? You know who you could learn a lot from? A guy like LeBron. And he's involved with them. And what I mean is, I don't know. All accounts you hear LeBron seems to be a pretty decent guy. Bottom line is, I don't know what he does in his personal life. We don't know either. But you don't hear about that stuff because he's smart to know to keep that stuff hidden because he knows what's going to happen. It's another guy, Derek Jeter. Those guys who are always going to be on under those microscopes like that seem to handle it. And why Manziel can't get that? I mean, it's just beyond me. I guess I'll pose this to you. What do you guys see now? And be honest, your complete opinion, moving forward, what do you think can be expected from Manziel? What do you see moving forward?
I mean, see, he has to prove to his head football coach, and more importantly to his teammates, that he can be a trustworthy quarterback. He can be someone to lead this team. And I have an innate problem with a quarterback coming into a situation where you're immediately leading the team, not gaining that respect, losing that respect, and having the best comment said to you in a piece being Joe Hayden saying, "I'm all about giving second chances." To me, as a quarterback who has had history of problems like this over his entire collegiate career, heading into his NFL career, I don't know as an organization that the Browns should even bother. Now, obviously there's more at play here. The Browns aren't going to want to get rid of a guy who can sell more jerseys than anyone else in the NFL in 1 month.
Jim, that's going to change. Jim, that will change. I'm sure.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think if Tim Tebow signs tomorrow, he sells a whole hell of a lot of jerseys. And he hasn't played in 2 years. But Manziel, dude, Manziel sells jerseys and you can say it's for his on-the-field garbage all you want. He sells jerseys for the same reason that Kim Kardashian brings ratings. She's got a nice ass and she throws it around. He's a dumbass and he throws it around.
All right, but first of all, Kim Kardashian. First of all, one of them is hot. Two. Let's consider that.
Don't hate on Johnny. Don't do this with me.
I'm just saying. I don't. What I'm saying is,
if he says one good comment, Steve, and they say he's the starting quarterback, his jerseys are immediately top 10, guarantee it.
If he does well, I just don't know. I mean, if he continues to play like he did, I can't see him still selling. Maybe in Texas.
Jersey sales, I think, are completely separate from what Johnny Manziel does on the field. He's a cultural icon at this point. I think him flaming out doesn't do a whole lot. I think it makes him more of a cultural icon.
I mean, we're only days away from him being on E, their top star.
Well,
he might be on a Kardashian. He may marry Kim Kardashian while she's still married to Kanye. That would be a show I'd watch that show.
To the point Mike makes, so I agree about him possibly being a cultural icon. Couldn't you see? Let's say he flames out. 10 years. Couldn't you see a 30 for 30 Johnny Football, like Brian Bosworth?
10 years. I'm surprised there's not already a 30 for 30 on him.
Well, all right. You get my drift though.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is why he would sell a lot of jerseys. That's my point.
Yeah.
I don't know. At the end of the day, jerseys, no jerseys. I just don't. If it's me, I'm looking for ways to move on. I agree with Mike in that, and Gordon to the same extent. I mean, I don't know where Gordon fits into all this. I don't know. I mean, the fact that they suspended him his last game really concerns me going forward with their two most important positions right now. I just don't know where they go from here. They handled their offensive coordinator the way that they did it. Now, obviously, they're probably going to focus on personnel. It's going to be an interesting offseason. I just don't know where they go. I don't know that there's a viable option out there at quarterback free agent wise. I just can't imagine they draft another quarterback. The fact that Manziel not only wasn't successful, but was such an ass off the field, it just leaves this team with such a big hole. And the fact that Gordon seemed to be pulled into it like a black hole. I mean, this is it's like Keystone Cops, guys. It's just so frustrating.
Well, here's my question for you both. So, just simple yes or no. Will Johnny Manziel be the starting quarterback opening day for the Browns this fall?
No.
Yes.
What? Okay. Will Johnny
Yes.
Manziel have a successful NFL career as a quarterback? Yes or no?
No.
No. No. No.
And so, what I'm saying, though, is this. We're not the most adamant Browns fans, the three of us, but you have three people here who, probably, some extremes, all of us, we have all of our extremes, but we're all still, basically a snapshot of Browns fans. Three of us say we were all aboard the Manziel bandwagon in May when he was drafted. Three of us seem to have totally lost faith in him, for the most part. How much of Cleveland has lost faith in this guy?
99.9%, I think. I mean, this is just me, but I mean, and maybe the bigger question, Steve, is how much of the 52 guys on that roster have lost faith in him?
Yeah. Does it seem like the Browns are giving a lot of second chances? Seems like we give a lot of guys second chances. It worked for Joe Hayden, and that's great. And I think it's awesome the fact that Joe Hayden is now viewed as an ultimate professional compared to Josh Gordon and Johnny Manziel when 2 years ago we were worried about him being on the field because he was probably smoking weed. Probably wasn't Adderall. Whatever. Who cares? You know what? You're going to do it. You're going to do it, okay? But he's an ultimate professional now, and we give a lot of guys second chances. And, when you're in the most – I think this speaks to what Jim said. When you're in the most unstable franchise in the NFL with no proof of ever winning or having a stable locker room, bringing in second chance guys all the time, probably not the thing you want to do. Having Josh Gordon and Johnny Manziel around, probably not the thing you want to do. And it sucks because Josh Gordon could be the best wide receiver in the NFL tomorrow, but he's just not going to be because he's just not smart enough to do it. He just doesn't care enough, and that's too bad. It's like watching Vince Carter. It's like watching any of these guys. They just don't care enough to keep themselves on the field and to play hard. And you know what? At the end of the day, even if 70% of them's really good, you got to get rid of that 70%.
Here's the hope. And I guess if you're a Cleveland fan, you have to have this optimism. The hope is that right now these guys are sitting down with somebody, maybe Chris Carter, who would be a great person to sit down with because nobody had more demons coming out of Ohio State than Chris Carter. Nobody had more demons during his early years with Philadelphia than did Chris Carter. They sit down with somebody, preferably not Herman Edwards, and talk about what it takes to be an NFL player and maybe get smacked in the face a little bit. And maybe they come back next year having sat down with these guys and worked out together and played together in the off season and hopefully not done crack together, whatever it is they do to get suspended. And maybe next year they try to prove a point. That's the best case scenario. And I think regardless of what I feel about Manziel and Gordon, who have to be lumped together at this point, the goal here is to make this team is not far away. If you look at the pieces that they have in place, minus perhaps quarterback, the pieces are there for a decent football team. They go out and they have a good draft. Wouldn't it be great if they could focus on defensive line or maybe a linebacker or a position of need in the first round with those two relatively decent picks, or trade up to get one piece that they need, instead of focusing on the quarterback? Wouldn't it be great if Manziel, for once, for a span of 6 months, acted like a professional, and for 6 months Josh Gordon stayed out of P.J. Hairston's car and stopped smoking marijuana when he wasn't supposed to, regardless of what you think about smoking pot or not? Wouldn't it be great if these people act like young professionals for 6 months and gave the Browns management hope so that they could build a team the way a normal team does. But instead, we have to wonder from day to day whether or not they're going to do something stupid. Why Manziel is allowed to go to... I mean, I don't know. Sorry, now I'm ranting. And it doesn't take much for a 23-year-old person to act professional, no matter how much money you have. And sometimes your psyche is just not fit for it. I just don't see these two guys ever having that type of psyche. And it's time to get rid of them. I don't know, Steve, what do you think? I mean, I know you're a big Gordon fan, as we all are, but what do you think? I mean, is there a point where these guys can get over the hump? Or are we just, is it another pipe dream? And that's a bad pun. It wasn't meant to be a pun. But what do you think?
It was actually a good pun. But, it's, I don't know. I guess I would, it's hard for me to say that with Gordon. I think you got to cut him loose, too, for his own. I mean, I love Gordon. He's my favorite player on the team. Just like Mike said, tomorrow he could be the best receiver in the NFL. But, just for his own good, and this is, if I'm going to like him as a player, I want to care for him as a person too. And for his own good, you got to cut your losses at this point, or he'll never succeed. I mean, it's not doing him any help, to give this guy money and to, it only gets better when it gets darkest. That's just how it goes. I don't know. I mean, it's and with Manziel, could you really imagine them cutting a guy 1 year later? I mean, I guess that's what's hard for me to believe, is it seems unprecedented to think of drafting a first-round quarterback, cutting the next year. I don't know if there is a precedent for that. But to me, on the top of my head, that seems unprecedented, because you do invest a lot as a first-round quarterback. So I'd be surprised. With Gordon, they've given him a lot of chances, multiple chances at this point. I wouldn't be surprised to see him go. With Manziel, I don't think they're going to cut him now, but I certainly have no faith he's going to succeed.
What do you think? I mean, I don't know. Gordon, it seems like Gordon's such a new player. You want to talk about a wash of a season, this third season. It appears that the Browns have gained another year of service from him, but at the same time, this is going to be an ugly scenario between Gordon and this front office. They suspend him for that game. It literally keeps him in Cleveland for another year. I just, and these are the kinds of things, like, I don't know that these are the kinds of things you want around a franchise, hanging over a franchise when you're trying to gain that stability. And it seems like Haslam's trying to do that, but I don't know. It's very, very frustrating how a team could be so close and so far at the same time. Go ahead, Mike.
What a humorous thing to complain about, to be irritated about if you're Josh Gordon. You're like, wow, man, I didn't play my 6 games this year. It wasn't because of the 12 I missed because I got high and I drove while intoxicated. No, it's because of the 1 game because come on, get out of town. I'm done.
Oh, we could have a whole podcast on the idiocy of Josh Gordon over the past 12 months. I mean, the whole P.J. Harrison thing. It just makes no sense. And they meet up in a Whole Foods parking lot by accident, and P.J. Harrison just gives him his car. Here's my rental. It's just so ridiculous. Maybe this is pop culture. Maybe the Browns are not even real NFL franchise. Maybe they are the pop culture of EHC.
Yeah,
we even have a movie. That goes along with it.
They should be Hard Knocks. Like, how are they not Hard Knocks?
God. well, that would help Manziel's jersey sales, I think. Let's wrap this up. Final thoughts on Manziel. I don't know, Steve. You never answered your own question, so let's wrap it up with this. Is Johnny Manziel going to be a starter in Week 1?
Yes.
Will Johnny Manziel have a successful NFL football career?
No.
Well, universal across the board. Lord knows whenever we vote no for something, guess what? Usually we're dead wrong. So maybe we've given him the sign of hope. Well, we're going to close things up. We're not going to plug away. We've just plugged in our recent podcast that we actually taped a couple, maybe an hour ago. So as we close up shop, Make sure you check out our website, www.everybodyhatescleveland.com, and all of our other avenues, Twitter, Facebook, Google+. You can even hit us up on SoundCloud. And you can find all of that information up there at the site. Right now, at the top of the headlines, we got Steve Urbanik's 10 observations. Mike Hattery has a couple of pieces up this past week. His most recent piece on Lonnie Chisenhall. Real good piece on Danny Salazar from earlier in the week. Make sure you check that out. I'll have Sunday Drive kicking back in tomorrow. Rich Primo, our other regular writer on Cleveland Sports, has something up his sleeve today. So shout out to Rich. He'll be joining these podcasts over the coming weeks. We have a lot of new stuff coming. Please make sure you check us out. Lots of new writers that aren't really new. I suspect you'll find them very familiar. We have lots of other podcast guests, including WFNY's Rick Grayshock. He'll be joining us in the coming weeks with a regular segment here as well. Got a lot of things coming, so make sure you check us out. That said, we'll see you on the flip side. We haven't talked Indians baseball, and I know we've got an Indians pod in there. You noticed the crooked C hat. This is going to bring us some luck this year. I think we've got a World Series contender. We'll be kicking into regular Indians podcasts here in the coming weeks. So check out Tribe Fest this weekend. Give us some shout-outs on Twitter. Let us know how it's going. That said, go Cleveland.